Good morning. It is Sunday, August 29th at about 10:45 in the morning. My name is Larry Cedar. I'm back with you for another session on Sqanning, spelled Sqanning. Sqanning is a relaxation technique which utilizes the incremental release of muscular tension to achieve a deep state of physical, emotional, and mental calm. So that's all we do here is induce incremental release of muscular tension. And, I might suggest that it is, to me, the most valid technique I've ever tried in my life. And I've tried all sorts of things: yoga, meditation, different philosophies, so forth. I'm an explorer, if you will. This is the most effective technique I've ever encountered in my life for solving a number of issues, either stress or physical ailments or whatever. The most effective means I found for solving a wide range of issues. And this is why I practice it so, you might say, obsessively, and why I believe in it so strongly, and why I come and share that technique here publicly with you, if you're interested, if it's for you. If I've learned anything in life, it's that everyone is completely different. As much as we share certain attributes, and at a base level, we're all completely unique, and each has our own path and our own way of finding what works for us. But I do feel that this is something that we can all identify with and share and benefit from, and that is the incremental release of muscular tension, what I call Sqanning. So I come here once a day. I do my own practice, and then I also come here to what I call public sessions to share the technique, to reinforce how it works, if that is of value to you. So that's it. Again, it's called Sqanning, Sqanning, the incremental release of muscular tension to achieve a deep state of physical, emotional, and mental calm. And the reason we practice is because the more we practice, the better we get at it. It's like anything. It's like any hobby you have, any pursuit you have in your life, practice makes perfect. And this is a technique which runs counter to our instincts on occasion. It involves letting go. And we tend to want to hold on. We tend to want to hold. We tend to want to do what I call contract. And it's very difficult to let go of that contraction once it's in place. So we practice because it counters that instinct to contract. So what do we mean by contraction? Thaddeus Golas, who wrote The Lazy Man's Guide to Enlightenment, said the universe is broken into two basic processes: contraction, squeeze your hands together, and expansion, release. And I call that the contraction expansion continuum. We move back and forth between those two states, contraction and expansion. And to get through life, we need to be very good at contracting, because contraction is the bringing together of thoughts, materials, ideas, substances to advance an agenda. That's how you make a living. That's how you talk, how you form words. That's how you maintain relationships. Contracting, bringing together of elements. It's a choice we make which advances our life, which allows us to lead a successful life. And it works. It's great. The most successful people in the world are very good at contracting, making things work in a certain way, bringing together elements, people, words, money, processes, practices to advance their agenda. So it's great. The problem is we become overly contracted, and we get so in the habit of contracting as a means of living. Like every day I must get up and I must contract, that we forget that of equal value, and this again, according to Thaddeus Golas, and I ascribe to his ideas, is of equal value, and that is expansion, letting go, the opposite of contraction, disassembling, but going from being solid to permeable, accepting, being open, allowing yourself to just be, empty, nothing, clear, calm, still, silent. That's the opposite. So because we're better at contracting than expanding, we practice Sqanning, what I call Sqanning, and it's an arbitrary name, I just gave it, but it references scanning the body. We practice Sqanning to get better at expanding, on demand, whenever we want to, so that when you feel bad, which is generally an overly contracted state, you can reverse that feeling. You can feel better through expansion. That's all we do here. And again, as with every session, during these live sessions, I encourage you, if you have a question about the technique, to type it in. I will see it pop up here, and I can answer your question right here on the spot. I will be reposting this session later, but then you won't be able to ask me directly and live. So if you have any questions, feel free to ask them as we proceed. So let's get started. Again, we're talking about two basic processes: contraction, squeeze your hands together; expansion, release. Contraction, expansion. We're going to use this next 25 minutes, 20 minutes, half hour, whatever it is we go, to practice expansion. And we're going to expand. In this particular case, there's a lot of ways to expand. I always say you can have a drink. That's a chemical expansion. You can go for a bike ride. That's just an activity expansion. Anything that allows you to open up, free your mind, clear yourself is an expansion. There are many ways to do that, but in this particular case, we're expanding through the process of incremental muscular release. Now, the muscles are a perfect metaphor for this contraction-expansion continuum. Muscles can either contract or expand. Clench your fist, release your fist. That's all muscles can do. One of two things. Contract, squeeze your hands together, or relax, release, expand. So the muscles are a great way to ride this horse, shall we say. If we're going to accept the premise that we live in a continuum of contraction-expansion and we want to move ourselves into expanded state, use the muscles. And by that I mean letting go. When you release muscular tension, you are expanding. Now you say, well, I can use a mental process to expand. I can think, positive thoughts. I can meditate. I can clear my mind, as they say. Yes, you can. And I've done all that. I have practiced meditation a great deal. It's part of this process in a way, but I wouldn't call this meditation per se. But the problem is then you're dealing with the mind. And as we all know, wrestling with the mind can be a very complicated and frustrating process. The mind is very clever. And if you've ever tried to stop thinking about something, you know how difficult that can be. The more you try to stop thinking about it, the more obsessed you become with it. It's like a tune that you can't get out of your head. So we bypass the mind in this process by focusing strictly on the musculature, the incremental release of muscular tension. Very important. We bypass the thinking process by going straight to the muscles. And the reason it's so important is at those times when you found, I can't stop thinking about this, I need to meditate, I need to calm myself down, when you're frustrated by your own inability to regulate this contractive process that's going on in your mind, by scanning, we take the focus off the mental process and put it strictly on the physical. And I would dare to say that if you put all your concentration into releasing a muscle, relaxing a muscle, all your concentration, you will not be able to think about something at the same time. Because you can't contract and expand at the same time. When you put your full energy into an expansive process, you stop contracting. You can't make a fist and release a fist at the same time. So if I tell you, if you're clenched and I tell you release the tension in your hand, you can't also clench your hand at the same time. 3, 2, 1, release. Okay? So by focusing on a expansive process, muscular release, we stop contracting. We move ourselves away from the obsessive thinking of contractive thought. That's the benefit of this technique. It's very simple. It gets you out of your head. So squeeze your hands together. This is how we start. That's contraction. So see what that feels like. So again, really focus on the physical now. I want you to think about each of these instructions I give you as a task that must be fully executed. And I want you to just focus on the physical. Again, we're moving ourselves out of our mind and into the body. So squeeze tight, tight, tight. That's contraction. On my count, I'm going to ask you to release all the tension in your hands. You're going to release tension in your hands. You're going to take that expansive step. And when it happens, I want you to really register how that feels. Tight, tight, tight. On my count, 3, 2, 1, and release. Deep breath. So you just expanded. We've begun. And it's that simple. That's all you're going to do when you practice scanning is release muscular tension. So we start with the hands because it's a very obvious way to exert muscular control. We use our hands all the time. We know what it is to contract and expand. We're very familiar with that, so we start there. Squeeze your hands together again, tight, tight, tight. That's contraction. Think about how that feels. Really experience what it is to contract your muscles. That's one half of the universe right there. You've just defined one half of the universe. So see what that feels like. Tight, tight, tight. And on my count, you're going to do the opposite. Expand. Remember, you can't do both at the same time. You can't. 3, 2, 1, and release. Drop your hands to your sides. Take 3 deep breaths. And just sit for 15 seconds in absolute stillness and silence. So what we've done is we focused strictly on these physical tasks. It's if I told you, let's see, what would be a physical task? Let's say you had a pegboard full of round holes and you had a series of pegs, let's say 16 pegs. And what I told you was, when I tell you, put the pegs in the holes. That's all I want you to do is focus on putting. Well, that's what I'm doing. I'm giving you a physical task. You're concentrating on a physical task. In this case, a very simple task, but put your full concentration into them and see how that feels. If you've ever heard of the Japanese tea ceremony, I know a little bit about it, but not much. It's a very elaborate, specific ceremony that is carried on in Japan. It's a serving of the tea, a pouring of the tea, a preparation of the tea. And it's practiced and practiced by people who are specialists at this. And they say it's a very meditative, very calming experience. Well, my belief is that it's the same theory. In giving your full attention, your full focus to a physical series of steps and attention, it takes your mind away from the thinking obsessive process, and it calms you. Anytime you concentrate fully on a physical task, fully, you can't be thinking about things at the same time. So that's what we're doing. But in this case, the task is muscular release. We take deep breaths because breaths are expansive, just like releasing the hands. Breaths are expansive, and we sit in stillness and silence because stillness is the opposite of activity, which is a contraction, a choice to take action, and silence is expansive because it is the opposite of words and thought, which are formed through contraction. So everything we're doing is moving us away from contraction towards expansion. Focus as fully and completely as you can on these physical tasks, and you will have begun the expansive process. And this is what I call the preliminary phase. We're going to move into more specific muscle work in a moment. Here we go. We're going to do it again. Squeeze your hands together, tight, tight, tight. See what that feels like. Really experience that contractive process and connect that to any moment you've had in the past day or so or week when you've been obsessively worried about something, or you've been anxious, or you just haven't felt like yourself, or you've been working too hard. And that's what you're doing right there. You're contracting. Again, contraction is strength. It's an effective means of managing your life, of succeeding and achieving in life. But it can also be inhibiting if it becomes overly contracted. So just feel what contraction feels like. And on my count, again, you're going to do the opposite, expand. You're going to completely relax your hands, let them drop to your side. And as our last step in this preliminary process, keep squeezing. We're going to take 5 deep breaths and sit in absolute stillness and silence for 60 seconds, a full minute. You don't have to count. I'll tell you when it's over. Counting is a contractive process, so I want to move you away from that. Just be. Ready? Squeeze, tight, tight, tight. Here we go. Ready? You're going to do the opposite. Expand, completely let go of all the tension in your hands. 3, 2, 1, and release. Feel that tingling? You've opened up. Drop your hands to your sides. 5 deep breaths, followed by 60 seconds of absolute stillness and silence, but continue to breathe, just absolutely still. 5 deep breaths. Here we go. Last one. 60 seconds, absolute stillness and silence. Don't move a muscle, but continue to breathe. Deep breath. And I recommend, if you're interested in scanning, in expansion, in moving that dial, moving away from contraction into expansion, that you use any one of these techniques for 30 seconds, a minute, 5 minutes, 15 minutes, half an hour, as much as you can spare, as much as you feel you can spare. Because any amount, remember, of expansion moves you away from contraction. A simple, deep breath expands you. Experiencing the sensation of muscular release, 3, 2, 1, release, expands you. Sitting in stillness and silence expands you. I contract a lot in my life. I read a lot. I talk a lot. I work a lot. I watch videos a lot. I'm on my phone. I play games a lot. I do plenty of contracting. I wish I could do less, but I do, either out of necessity or out of habit, which is difficult to break. A lot of my thinking processes are habitual. Those are contractions. Sometimes we wish we wouldn't think so much. These are habits. They're difficult to break. The solution is to bring more expansion into your life. If you feel unhappy or overly contracted, The solution is to expand more and bring yourself to center or balanced. We're not trying to get rid of contraction. It's the stuff of life. We're trying to balance our life with expansion. So any one of these steps peppered through your day, placed in strategic moments, can you spare 30 seconds, can you spare 5 minutes, will bring you into balance, will bring more expansion into your life. Again, you want a balance of contraction and expansion. We tend to be overly contracted. It will bring you into balance. So take any one of these and practice them anytime. One of the difficult challenges people tell me sometimes is, well, I want to scan, I want to do this, but I haven't got time. Can you spare 15, 30 seconds? Can you take an extra breath every day? A helpful thing to do, and I do this, is I keep a log. I keep a log of how many minutes, hours a day I scan. And I'm a devoted practitioner of the technique, and I'm astounded sometimes at how little I manage to squeeze in. I always do an hour, at least an hour, because I do it in the morning. When I wake up, I'll lie in bed and scan for an hour, or sometimes in the middle of the day. I always get 1 hour in, but I would like to do more. And yet it's so difficult. Not to find the time is there. It's so difficult to let go of my contractions, to let go and expand. Instinctively, we don't want to let go. That's the nature of contraction. It wants to hold on. That's its job. So of course, it's difficult. We have to gently persuade it. This is why I say the incremental approach to this technique is best, because small amounts matter. Take a moment to expand. The more you do it, the more you recognize the value of it. As you become expanded and feel better, you'll start to become sort of addicted to it. You're going to want to do it more and more, just as much as, we want to eat to feel better or have a drink to feel better. It'll become one of your choices in life. It's the most challenging because it's gradual, it's incremental. You don't feel an immediate payoff, which is what we want. I want to feel better now. Sometimes it's actually a struggle. Sometimes it's uncomfortable to let go, to expand. So it's a difficult habit to acquire, but you will start to want to do it the more you do it. If I go a day without scanning at all, I'm off. I just don't feel right. And one of the reasons I do a scanning session now before I work out, because I work out every day, exercise, is I've noticed that when I'm expanded, everything is easier about my workout. My muscles work more effectively. I get less winded. I just have more ability to exert myself because I'm more relaxed. So that is the preliminary phase of scanning, and now we move into the what I call nuts and bolts of the technique, which is the actual focused concentration on releasing muscular tension throughout our body. Again, it's called scanning with a Q to be different, but it's in reference to scanning our body, literally searching our body for pockets of muscular tension. And that's the way you start to think of this process. When you take a moment to scan, you might have a heightened awareness through practice of where your tension is, and you will be able to relax that tension. And it's cumulative, as I said. So as one part of you starts to relax, the rest of your body will give in, and you have what I call a breakthrough. Your body will at some point just give way and go, oh, okay, let's just drop all this contraction and tension. Let's just enjoy being. It's a breakthrough moment. It happens not every time, but the more time you spend, the more likely you are to achieve that breakthrough. And it feels wonderful. It feels wonderful. So let's give it a shot. You break your body into zones because it's easier to approach a specific muscle group than the entire body. So I start with what I call zone 1, the face. And this is an easy one. You can look in the mirror if you want. We use our face a lot, so it's easy to access control over those muscles. And on my count, I want you to do what we did with our hands. Release all muscular tension that you can in your face. And this can be incremental. What's important is not how much, but that you experience that release, that feeling of release. That's what you want to experience more and more, to get better and better at. The face, you ready? 3, 2, 1, and release. You see how my face just dropped? And if it helps, if you're not familiar with this process and you don't know what it feels like to let go of muscular tension, even if you've done this and this, look in the mirror and watch. 3, 2, 1, and release. Everything shut off. This is a really great exercise for a variety of reasons. First of all, because it puts you in a state of mind of releasing muscular tension. You understand what that sensation of letting go is. But it's great for your eyesight. One of the reasons we have loss of eyesight, or we start to need glasses, is because tension. The muscles of the eyes are very sensitive, very effective at shortening or lengthening your eye. That's why when you see something and you move it in closer, your muscles of your eyes change to shorten the field of vision or lengthen, depending on what, it's It's a physics thing. The light comes in and the eye focuses on that light. That's why when you look far away, you see one thing, and then if something comes in close, you have to adjust your eyes. And sometimes you'll feel a strain, like you feel your eye working. That's because the muscles are shortening to adapt for this closer thing. So there's muscles working in there. So as you start to relax the muscles of your eyes, they work more effectively. And many times after I've done a session, I'll find that I can see much farther than I could before, or I can read much closer than I could before. Tension is the nemesis of muscular effectiveness. When your muscles are tense, they don't work as effectively. When they're loose, they're supple. So many benefits to relaxing the face. The eyes, the brow, if you have, if you worry about lines in your face. I never worried about that, but I know a lot of people are concerned about it. I'm a character actor. The uglier and older I get, the more work I might get. I don't know. I hope. But if you're worried about the lines in your face, if you have jaw issues when you sleep, if you clench and you have sore jaw, that's something which can really help that. So we start by relaxing the muscles of the face. 3, 2, 1, and let them go. Release. Feel that droop? So just let that happen. Again, the face. 3, 2, 1, and here we go. Release. And it's a shift. It's an immediate shift. And I snap my fingers because I want you to feel that distinction between contraction and expansion. You can let go gradually. But what I'm trying to do is encouraging in you that sensation of change, that switch from contraction to expansion. I want you to feel the difference. I'm trying to emphasize the contrast, because if you can experience that change, that becomes more familiar to you, then you can induce it in other parts of your body. And then one day you'll say, oh, I'm really good at this. I can instantly release the tension in my neck if I want to. 3, 2, 1, and release. So you'll get better and better at it. So I snap my fingers as a way of flipping that switch. The face. 3, 2, 1, and release. And you kind of look kind of dumb or stupid. You just let all that effort you put into looking like a happy, smart, alert person, you just let it go. Okay, so once you've felt that, we move on to zone 2, which is the top of the head. Any of these groups you might say, I don't know what that feels like. How do you release tension on the top of your head? Well, don't worry about it. Just thinking about it will change your body. Just thinking about your body will shift your body. Your body's very responsive. This is why so often when we are tense or unhappy or stressed, our body is full of aches and pains, because our body is related to the mind. It's all connected. It's all one. The body affects the mind affects the body. In this particular case, we're working on the body to calm the mind, and either way works. The top of the head, 3, 2, 1, and release. Feel that drooping sensation? Again, the top of the head, 3, 2, 1, and release. And if you want, try to kind of create tension in the top of your head and then change it. 3, 2, 1, and release. Feel that contrast? That's what you're trying to experience. That shift from contraction to expansion. Contraction, expansion. Contraction, expansion. It's a slackening. And the snap is when you turn off the power to that muscle. Consciously or unconsciously, you've made a decision to contract the muscles of your body. It's a very standard defense against fear or anxiety. It's an attempt to put a guard, a suit of armor over yourself. There's a sheath between your muscles and your skin called the fascia. It's like a sack that runs through your body and it tightens up, it cinches up, but we can let that go. 3, 2, 1, and release. So that's all we're doing. Move on to zone 3, the back of the head. 3, 2, 1, and release. And it's as if you had something cinched up tight and you just let it spread. Cinched up tight, spread. And I always use the analogy of a dress shirt or some nice item of clothing, a cotton item has come out of the dryer, and it's crinkly and it's all crinkly and bunched up, and you're going to have to iron it. But one way to straighten out crinkles is to hang it on a hanger and take a steamer and pass the steamer over it, and those crinkles will just flatten out. So it's as if your muscles are crinkled up like a shirt just out of a dryer, and what you're doing is passing a steamer over those muscles, so they're just going, oh. Okay? So just see what that feels like. Zone 3, again, the back of the head. 3, 2, 1, and release. There it goes. So now you're starting to feel it affect the rest of your body. As you start to relax one part of your body, the other parts of your body go, there's a party going on the 3rd floor. I want to be a part of that. And they start to let go as well. Zone 4 is the neck. 3, 2, 1, and release. We hold a lot of tension in our neck. The neck, 3, 2, 1, and release. So you're starting to feel it. You're starting to feel two things: that sense of release, one, and your sense of control over that release. You're starting to realize that you have the ability to change your state of being. You have that power. That's why it's so important that any amount of change that you register and go, I did it. Don't worry if you feel, I feel just as tense as I did when I started this session. Well, do you feel a little bit more relaxed? A little. The slightest change. Acknowledge it. Say, I did it. I did it. Remember, it's very difficult to move out of a contracted state. We do this incrementally because you can't just pull yourself out. You gently nudge. The body gets into a fixed position and holds it, does not want to let go. If you've ever had a back injury, if you've ever twisted your back and your back just is in pain for days and days, and you know that if I could just relax those muscles, it would be okay, but the body goes, what? What just happened? I have to clench up to protect you. And it doesn't want to let go. So you have to gently persuade it to let go. The neck, 3, 2, 1, and release. And now I felt my shoulders drop. See how my body, one part of my body is sympathetic to the other? These are associated. I relax my neck and my shoulders drop. So now let's do the shoulders. 3, 2, 1, and let them drop. Even further, relax. Let's do them all together. The face, the top of the head, the back of the head, the neck and shoulders, everything. Just let it go. Ready? Ready? And 3, 2, 1, and release. So we're starting to move the dial. Gently, slowly. Deep breath. Now I took a breath because I felt like taking a breath. I got that impulse, and that frequently happens as you start to expand and relax. The diaphragm relaxes as well. When you are contracted, you are holding things, so you're holding your breath. As you start to release and expand, you release that mechanism, and your body, which has been probably at an oxygen deficit because you haven't been breathing as much as you should, out of contraction, out of tension, will say, oh, I can breathe now. Take that breath. Don't wait for me. If you feel that impulse, take a breath. Anywhere in this process, take 100 breaths. Breaths are expansive by nature. You'll find yourself taking more breaths and taking more moments of silence and stillness as your body starts to expand. You're moving into another state of being, a state of nothingness, a state of emptiness, calm, relaxation, openness, stillness, relief. Let that happen. Zone 6 is the chest, the stomach, and the front of the waist. 3, 2, 1, and release. You're also building through practice your ability to focus on a particular part of your body, to bring your healing attention to a part of your body. You know, we tend to go through life and I don't want to think about my body, I just want to live. But sometimes you need to focus. To heal yourself, you need to take that moment to concentrate on what needs healing. You know, it's easier to be oblivious. And if I feel bad, I'll have a drink or I'll eat a hamburger. I don't want to have to think about it. This is a discipline that requires that you concentrate. This is, again, why we practice. As you get better and better at not taking the traditional routes towards comfort and pain release, food, drink, distractions, phone, television, any number of things. As we decide to take a healthier route, it requires concentration and practice and doesn't always feel immediately good. When you're contracted, it feels, in a weird way, as harmful as it might be to us when we're overly contracted, it feels secure at least. I feel like I've got some sort of protection. I'm holding tight and I'm not vulnerable. I've got my guard up. So letting go of that can feel uncomfortable, dangerous, unsafe, almost emotional. You feel exposed. So that extraction process can frequently be undesirable, which is another reason why we have to practice, because we have to learn to get past that resistance. I always feel resistant to this process. Always, always, always. I've been doing it for years. But my contractive self doesn't want to stop contracting. There's resistance. There's an instinctive sense of protecting myself. So through practice, we learn to realize that that's just contraction. I'm not really in danger. All I'm doing is expanding. And once I've done that, I'll feel so much better. So you learn to push through that resistance. Again, zone 6, the chest, stomach, front of the waist. 3, 2, 1, and release. There go my shoulders again. So you've started to expand. Take a moment to register, how much have I expanded? And again, how much isn't as important as that you did it, but sometimes it helps to say, well, today I was able to move the dial 1 degree. Tomorrow I might move it 5 degrees. On Tuesday I might move it all the way. I might become completely relaxed, completely. Don't expect it to be the same every time. Depending on how contracted you are, how focused you are, it'll change every time. Of course, you always want to have that breakthrough where you completely relax. It won't happen every time, but don't get frustrated. Don't judge yourself, and don't rate yourself. Pat yourself on the back for learning to expand. I'll be doing this the rest of my life. I'm devoted to it. And I get angry and frustrated when I'm unable to achieve the results I want every single time. But what I've learned to do is acknowledge that, well, of course it's going to be challenging. I spend most of my day contracting. This is always going to be a challenge, expanding, always. But what I'm doing is bringing balance to my life. I feel better than I did before. I may not feel perfect all the time, but I feel a lot better than I used to, because I used to live in a contracted state. And I'd either alleviate that pain through chemical expansion, drinks or a joint or whatever, or I'd pay someone to help me pull me out of that contracted state, a masseuse, a chiropractor, a therapist. That's a way of pulling yourself out of contracted state. All valid, all valid. But I wanted to learn how to do it for myself. It's very empowering to realize that you can change your state of consciousness without needing any other external process. You can do that. And I discovered that, and I said, this is fantastic. I want to get really, really good at this, because to know that you can change your state of consciousness means you don't have to feel so victimized by circumstance. If you get into trouble, if you become overly contracted, you have the tools to alleviate that. You just got to find a moment to sit down, take some deep breaths, release the physical tension in your body, and you will be able to do it because you will have practiced. You will have gotten good at this technique. And you walk around knowing this, that no matter what happens in your day, no matter what happens, you have a way to feel better. That doesn't involve popping a pill or taking a drink or paying someone for an external process. It's very empowering. Very empowering. I've come to believe, and I still have my doubts, of course, but I've come to believe that 90% of the problems, I experienced in my life, and the strain and the discomfort I feel from those problems can be alleviated through scanning. And that's not to say you can change the problem. The problem will always exist. Things happen in life, but you can change your perspective on that problem, how you feel about it, and how it makes you feel. You can bring yourself to a calm place where, yes, I have a problem, but I can deal with it calmly, rationally, without it tearing me apart. I'm balanced. That, to me, is really appealing, and it's why I practice so much, because the better I get at this technique, the more able I'm able to apply that technique. So zone 6 again, the chest, the stomach, the front of the waist, let it go. 3, 2, 1, and release. There it goes. And take these moments to just feel the change. That's all I'm doing right now, is feeling the beauty and pleasure of stillness and silence. The more expanded you become, the more value you attribute to stillness and silence. You start to see its value, and you want to go to that place more and more. And it seems odd. What's going on? What is he doing? What am I doing? Why am I just sitting here? What's this accomplishing? What value does this have? Well, all that goes away. You start to just accept that stillness and silence is a beautiful, valuable thing. It's a moment of expansion that brings balance to your life, and you indulge in that moment. You take it. And I always say that these sessions are somewhat contradictory, because I spend most of the session talking. Talking is a contraction. Ideally, someday I might run a session where I say, hi everyone, welcome to the session, and now let's just sit in stillness and silence for a half an hour. And that will be the perfect session, because I will be practicing what I preach. I won't be explaining or contracting or describing or using words. I won't be moving. I won't be showing you anything. I'll just be in a state of being. And you can join me in that process if you like. So there's a bit of a contradiction. Zone 7 is down the back and into the pelvis. Think about the pelvis. 3, 2, 1, and release. There it goes. And again, the pelvis. 3, 2, 1, and release. And now we've done 7 of the 8 zones. You're starting to get, I hope, what that feels like. 2, 3, 2, 1, the pelvis, release. You feel it. You know what it feels like. It's the same as, what would be a comparable thing? Shaking someone's hand. You know what shaking someone's hand feels like. We do it all the time. So now you're starting to becoming, if I said, imagine what it's like to shake a hand, you know what that feels like. So if I said to you now, imagine what it feels like to release muscular tension. 3, 2, 1, release. You know what that feels like because now you're practicing. So you're going to get better and better at that. And, we don't go around talking to each other about how familiar we are with this process of relaxing and expanding. Again, it's something we rarely do. If you have a sense of self-healing, self-help, and you want to do that, I'm sure you've tried any number of techniques, meditation, yoga, which incorporate this process. And that's great. That's what we're doing. But it runs counter to our instincts, which are to contract, so we do need to practice. Zone 8 is down the legs, across the knees, and into the feet. Think about your feet for a moment, and again, use the same technique we've applied in all these other areas. Just see what your feet feel like, and on my count, release the smallest amount of muscular tension. 3, 2, 1, here they go, and release. There goes your feet. You just felt them relax a tiny bit. You felt that. The feet, 3, 2, 1, and release. There they go. You might feel a slight tingling, a slight throbbing as that area opens up. As you focus your energy on that area, your body's natural instinct is to send healing blood to that area. So you'll feel a throbbing. Blood has nutrients, oxygen. Your body instinctively throbs in an area that it senses has been injured. It needs to heal that area. Your body is a wonderful mechanism. That's why when you get a mosquito bite, it swells up because your body is sending substances to deal with that infection, that invader. So suddenly the area gets swelled. Now, if your body has an overactive immune response, that can be dangerous as well, but that's what's going on. So send your focus to your feet, and on my count, release the energy, release the muscular tension in your feet, small amount, whatever, just feel the change. What's important is that you feel the change. 3, 2, 1, and release. And again, the feet, 3, 2, 1, and release. Deep breath. Another. 15 seconds of stillness and silence. Deep breath. So we're going to call it a day. Again, it's called Sqanning, Sqanning. It's a relaxation technique which utilizes the incremental release of muscular tension to achieve a deep state of physical, emotional, and mental calm. But all we're doing is getting better and better at incremental muscular release, going from this, squeeze your hand, 3, 2, 1, to this. Squeeze your hands, 3, 2, 1, release. That feeling. You do that all day. You could sit in a chair and just go, 3, 2, 1, release. 3, 2, 1, release. You just get better and better at that sensation of release and start to infuse your life with that consciousness so that you become aware as you go through your day of when you're in a more contracted state or in a more expanded state. And when you are overly contracted, which typically feels bad, you can now say, wait a minute, I have a way to reverse that process. But you have to make the choice. I had a discussion the other day with someone, and they were in a very contracted state. I'm worried about this, I'm worried about this, I'm thinking about this, I'm thinking about that. I don't know what to do. What should I do? What should I do? They were asking me for my help. So, of course, what I said was, stop talking. First thing, just sit still. Take a deep breath. Go to a place of nothingness, emptiness. Stop contracting. Stop thinking. No, but I can't. I have to think about this. I go, I know. So make the choice now to stop. No, I can't. So we went back and forth like this. And at some point I said to myself, which I always say, okay, so they don't want to do this. They don't want to expand. They're too comfortable. They're too frightened to leave that contractive state. They're afraid that if they let go of their contraction, that they will just be destroyed, die, whatever, fall apart. That feeling of expansion is frightening to them. They're so habitually addicted to contracting as a solution to problems, particularly contraction in the form of thought, that the very idea of stopping that process is threatening to them. And I finally said, okay, well, do what you want. If this is good, I'm sure you'll be fine. And I let them continue. You can't ask anyone to do anything they're not comfortable with. And I honor that habit of theirs because I've been there. I've been in a place where I didn't want to let go. I acknowledge that happens. It's very, very difficult to reverse the contracted process. I'm hoping on some level that what I said got through to them and that they will realize that at some point they're going to exhaust themselves and they're going to have to take a break and stop because they're just going to make it so they can't contract anymore. And they'll find a moment of stillness and silence and they will become balanced. and they will reapproach that same problem with a clear mind, with a calm self, and they'll be able to resolve that problem. So again, it's a choice. It's a choice. And we practice because it's a difficult choice, but we can develop that muscle, shall we say, that discipline, so that it can be more accessible to us in our life. So that's it for today's session. I'll repost this on my Facebook page, as I always do, for a short while, and then I move it over to the Sqanning Facebook page, Sqanning. Search and follow on that page if you like to get alerts when there's new sessions or when I'm doing a live session. And I do these live sessions because I like, if people have questions, to answer their questions. But the same session will exist for you to watch if you missed any or all of it or just want to watch it again. I end every session with rule number one. Rule number one in Sqanning is love yourself. And by that I mean whatever progress you make or don't make, congratulate yourself for even trying. You're doing a noble thing. We all want to be better in life. We all wish we could be better people. I don't know anyone who wishes he could be a more horrible person or fail more. We all want to do better. We want to be better. Everything we do in life is to just try to survive this life and get through it without hurting anybody, hopefully, and just getting better at who we are and what we do. So love yourself for trying. And love the parts of you that you don't love about yourself, because love is the most expansive act you can take in the universe. It's hard for me to love myself sometimes. There are a lot of things about myself I really struggle with. But if you love yourself, you embrace, you open up, you expand, and everything is better. And then when you have so much love in you that it's actually spilling out, take that extra and pass it around to whoever happens to be around you, because I guarantee you they will appreciate it. Have yourself a great day. See you next time. Thanks. Bye-bye.